In one of the previous videos, I was talking about how to organize your smart materials, or specifically the layer stack, so that you could reuse that same stack on a different model. In the course of that video, I was talking about how to make a new folder over here for smart materials, and the idea that you should copy some of your default materials into that folder before you make changes. I did not remember to show you how to do that, so I'm going to do that now. And I want to talk about a little issue in the workflow that I was hoping would work, which kind of isn't, and it's going to be a little bit more convoluted. So first off, to add a new folder, you're going to come over here, you're going to hit the plus sign. That part's pretty basic. My mats. Now, as soon as you make that folder, over here in your 3DCoat, Textura, User Preferences, Smart Materials folder, it's going to make a new folder. So now watch this. I'll bring this back in a second. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to say delete the folder. Do you want to delete it? Okay. Just so you know, when you say delete it here, it's actually going to delete the folder here in your Smart Materials. It's not just going to remove it from the list. So that's kind of important. Now, let's go ahead and add that back again. And what I want to show you is that as soon as I hit enter, it shows up. So it's pretty live. Now the next part of this is copying your materials that you want to use for a project into this. So the premise, if you didn't see the other video, is that you create a layer stack of just smart materials and you save all those smart materials into this specific folder. Then when you open up a new model and you want to have the exact same layer stack, you can go to this folder and you can pick each one. To add on to that, I gave each one a number so you know which one to add in first. There's piles of problems with this, like I don't know what the layer blending is going to be, and you can't do any painting because you'd have to do UV unwrapping, but at least it's kind of a start because I make a lot of similar asset types that I want to have the same texture on. So let's go over here to stone, and let's say I want this one right here. Now I've already screwed this up and gave it a name, so I'll tell you how I did that, and so you can maybe know not to do that. If I right click on this one, I can duplicate it, but if you duplicate it, it's going to make another one right in here of the very same name, and it's kind of, you don't really know which one's which. In a way, maybe it sort of doesn't matter. By the way, I've noticed that the seed value for the noise, it seems, if that's what you want to call it, seems to be different. So let me show you that real fast. Click on this, duplicate. So there's DC, MTL, la la la, stone, and here's another one down here. So watch this in the preview window. See how it changes a little bit? It's kind of interesting. I might have to remember that later if I want the same texture, but I would just kind of want it, I'm going to go with the word reseeded. So that's not what I want to do, so I'm going to delete that one. And what I think is probably the better way to do this is if you click on it, double click on it, or click on it a second time once you're here, get up to this window. But this has got a little bit of a, it's not really a glitch, but a thing you need to remember when you go to rename this. So I'm going to save this as a new texture, but if you leave the name here and you just say save as new, it's not going to ask you anything. It's just going to save it as that same name. So let's get rid of that again. And then we will click again, and you give it a name, and you'd probably be inclined to say save as new. This is how I screwed up the main one. So watch this. I can do this and show you it without completely screwing it up. So you go, okay, my material. Watch, watch, watch. So we've got two down here. Save as new. Uh-oh. It just changed the main one right here to my material. So it didn't save it as new. It just renamed the one that was there. So I'm going to cancel that. Thankfully, it goes back. Click on it again. So you add in my material, and you also might be inclined to tab away. Tab, 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 tab. It doesn't tab away out of this. And let's say solidify, you have to hit enter. You hit enter, and now it says my material, but look, it looks like it's going to rename the main one, but hit save as new, and you'll actually have a second one here with that name. So as usual, a little bit kind of weird with this program. That's what I've ran into so far. So make sure you do it exactly the way that I did so you don't end up renaming or changing the default one. If you did, you can always go here and you can say restore factory defaults. Now, I will say I haven't clicked this button yet, so I'm not really sure if it's going to restore everything or is it just going to be that material. I hope it's just that material. Okay, next part. So now you have my material down here. I can right click on this and say move item to my mats. So I hit that, disappears from here, goes over to my mats. Now if I bring up the folder, there's my mats there. There are all the files it needs for this smart material. So that's really it. But to continue on with this, just to kind of show you what I would actually use this for, I would then go double click on this and then change some of the values and save it here in my mats. And I would give it a name like 01 stone, meaning that is the first smart material in layer 1, let's say, that we have. Then I might come over to plastic, and then maybe I do the same for this one and name it 02, and then maybe I wanted to add some rust, and so then I copy that over to my mats, and I call that 03, make the changes I want to that, and so on. Now, the thing that isn't exactly going to work the way that I wanted it to was to be able to take my mats right here and cut this out and put it somewhere else and recall it. I can and I can't, not in the way that I wanted it to. So I'll cut this away from here and I'll just paste it here for right now. So I'll restart Textura and then it will be gone. So as you can see, my mats are gone. Now, if you come over here to the 3 dots, there is an item that says add existing materials folder. Weirdly, it doesn't do exactly what it says. And I don't know exactly how I can possibly use it. So I'll click on this and I'll show you. It's going to ask for some names. And again, I don't know what to put here. So I just hit OK. So then I go here to my mats, double click on this. And weirdly, it doesn't want the PBRM that's there. It says when you hover over it that you could pick any file and it's going to get all of those. But it has to be one of these file types down here. So I'll just pick any one of these. I'll hit open. And it makes a new folder called My Mats. And it has what appears to be all the texture files in here, but it's not the smart material and it's not going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this. I'm going to hit delete. And just to show you this, the My Mats folder is still here. So for whatever reason, possibly permissions, it doesn't actually delete the folder from your computer if it's not in the smart materials folder. Now, to finish this all off, the thing that I wanted to be able to do was to take that smart materials folder that has all the various smart materials that I want to use on a certain type of asset that I may make. I want to save that probably in the project file with all those other assets. And then whenever I needed it, I could just add that folder to this list right here. But that's not going to work. So the workaround, if I need this to happen, because it could be a big deal that I really needed to happen. I made in the last video, I made a wall. Then you make a corner wall. Then I made one with a door in it. Then maybe later down the road, I was like, I need a wall with a window in it. Ah, darn, I forgot to do that before. I need to get back to that layer stack so I can add it to this new wall. So I'm still thinking that that's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea to leave them just in the smart materials folder because this is going to become a disaster real quick. So I would cut this file out, put it in the project folder, and then later down the road, if you need it, copy it back into the smart materials folder. So watch. So I paste that in. There's my mats. And now when I restart, I've got the my mats folder here and I can go ahead and use any of the smart materials that I have in there. So that's a bit of an addendum to the previous video on how to create smart material folders, how to move existing smart materials into folders, and possibly how to manage the folder in your system so that you could recall this layer stack for future reuse.